when these guys are all willing to put the individual achievements aside, Curtis.
Well, what do you know? You never won an NBA championship.
And go get a chip. So let's go.
When your leader does that, I think that's what everybody else kind of falls in and buys in.
Well, he still drifts back occasionally to the being upset about not being,
that's
being
fine.
the MVP.
But I'm talking about his performance, his play on the court.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when, there's a little part of me that's like, man, just be aggressive, take over. But he's still trying to get guys involved and not be selfish.
I think he listen, last night he had a huge three, end of that game.
Yeah.
The argument that he's not clutch, I think
we've already put that to bed.
What?
we did.
You can be
in clutch performances.
You can be clutch and never win.
No. In clutch
I'm asking that question simply.
Yeah, you could have clutch performances.
No, I know, but can you be considered a great clutch player and never win a championship?
No, but you can be a clutch player.
Can you answer that simply?
But that's a different conversation.
No, it isn't. It's
yes,
the whole
you
conversation.
can. Clutch means at the end of games, whether they're close-out games or big games, you perform well.
When did Ortiz become clutch? 2004.
I would say that.
You're
yes.
asking two different conversations.
You said
last time I brought up Ortiz in the clutch conversation, you told me I'm not allowed to do that.
Well, no, but I mean, you look at that Yankees series, and David, how many walk-offs in that in that 2004 playoff run did he have? I mean, that's very clutch.
Right, but if Curtis is relating clutch to winning championships,
right,
then but I don't relate that. Clutch means when we talk about it in football, we talk about, can this guy take a team down the field in the last 2 minutes of the game?
Drill.
2 minute drill.
Like Clapback33 in the Twitch chat, and you can watch this show every day on Twitch, and thank you to those who do. Just go to Twitch and follow WEEI. Says, yes, you can be clutch and never win a championship, Chris.
Great. Clapback has I think it's Angry Principal Dave's burner account. Literally is in there the whole time disagreeing with me. If I weren't here, the Twitch chat would be very dull. But I would say I agree he's had clutch moments. Absolutely. Game 6 against the Sixers. No, Game 6 against the Bucks. Game 7 against the Sixers. Sensational. His rookie year getting to the conference final is an amazing achievement. But if you're looked at as an all-time clutch player, you have to win a championship.
Wouldn't you say that a lot of people would consider Joel Embiid a clutch player?
No.
He has clutch games.
Yeah,
but he's never won a championship.
But I don't.
He's never even made an Eastern Conference Finals.
I don't view clutch and view it as, all right, if you're clutch, then that automatically leads to you winning championships, right?
I agree. That's
right. So when I look at clutch performances, we do it, like I said, football is what we do it in the most, where we say, all right, 2 minutes to go in the game. Could he drive his team down the field and put them in a position where they can go ahead, or maybe they do win the game, right? And they do that, and maybe that player doesn't have any championships.
508 text. If you have to keep saying put the individual stuff aside, that means you're worrying too much about the individual stuff.
No, you're just human, and it bothers you. I mean, that's human nature. When you don't get your just due, that doesn't mean you still can't do your job, but it will bother you about not getting some of those individual accolades when people ask you about that.
Or there were people previously on this team, Marcus Smart, who were worried about individual things, and this team is not necessarily in that same category.
And I think there's two things on Tatum, and not to go back earlier in the week where Courtney and I were talking about this, I don't think anybody could say Tatum's play is selfish, like his on-the-court performance. Jason Tatum is as unselfish a superstar that maybe exists in any sport. It's the stuff about the awards that is perceived by some as selfish. So those are the two different things. He doesn't play selfishly at all.
But but in the I don't even want to use the word selfish. In previous seasons, I think that the two of them, I'll include Jaylen Brown in this, felt like they had to defer to Marcus Smart until the point at which Marcus Smart would not stop throwing up threes, and then they felt like they had to put it all on themselves to go out and win some of these games. I think with a different set of guys on that team, they have been from jump, as we would say, this season, willing to spread it around,
right?
And when that works, I mean, for a little while, like you brought up the offense the other day, for a little while, without Porzingis, it gets weird. Like
Right.
it
does.
gets disjointed.
Right. And
And that happened in the fourth quarter last night for more than it should have.
right. And that's part of not. And you're right. That's part of not having Porzingis. The biggest problem on why this team hasn't won a championship already, I blame two people: Wick Grossbeck and Brad Stevens. And the reason why I blame those two is because they held on to Marcus Smart for too long. Because the thing about Marcus Smart,
I'm going to say to you what I should have said to Curtis. Keep Wick's name out your mouth.
No, but listen.
Or I will never be back at the Boston Garden
listen.
again.
Nobody,
Ever.
I never even mentioned his name. I mentioned his coach's
Right,
name.
but nobody's criticizing him as an owner. But what I'm criticizing,
Well, that's kind of what you
no,
just said.
what I'm criticizing his decision, and his decision was to hold on to a guy who made himself the face of the franchise when the two faces of the franchises or should be the guys that we see now and how they communicate. If you would have eliminated Marcus Smart a long time ago,
Oh, my God.
what you would have
this
had,
argument,
Wiggy, you're spot on with this.
what you would have had is two
what
guys.
you would not have had was the defensive player of the year in
Who
the NBA.
cares?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
but
that
but
helped
what
a
you
lot.
would have had was two guys that can fit into their roles as leader rather than having, and I'm not talking about play, rather than have to defer to a guy who those two, Wick and Brad, made the face of the franchise.
They may have held on for too long, but you
Yes.
have to give them credit for actually moving on. I think a lot of
No, I
people would
do
have
give
kept
them
him
credit
here.
for that, but we're talking about the mistake that they made that could have led to them winning a championship prior.
You're
And-
saying we could be on championship number 3 right
well,
now.
or maybe even like going for number 2. But the problem was when I say they, Wick and Brad made it like he's a great player. He was a great pillar of the community. But the problem was he became the face of your franchise because you told us he was the heart and soul. He was this, and Jason and Jalen weren't able to kind of take the team in the direction they wanted to because they had this giant, overpowering personality.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the superstar, like the overall total superstar, just does that on their own, regardless of
If
who's
Marcus-
there.
Yeah, but Greg, Wiggy is right on this point. Like, didn't they force the publications like SI to have both Jalen, Jason, and Smart?
Mm-hmm.
And isn't one of the things that bothers Jason Tatum clearly that he's not treated respectfully across the league for his current stature?
Yeah.
That he doesn't get the calls? Well, if he's in his own building and he's sharing the billboard with Marcus Smart,
And your owner
Yeah.
and GM are saying he's the heart and soul of the franchise. It's not like it's they made the wrong decision to hold on to him too long, and that's why I'm saying if they didn't have Marcus Smart, let's say a couple of years ago, don't you think this team, and maybe they had like a Drew Holiday or insert player X?
Okay. When it comes to accepting whatever role is best for the team, I think Drew Holiday has been the biggest example of that on this basketball team. I did not expect him coming here to be willing to accept that whatever they decide his role is,
Right.
and he is, and he's been extraordinary when it comes.
it
And
helps when you get that deal.
And let me ask,
Yeah, no, yes.
but let me ask this question: why couldn't have Marcus Smart done that? Right? And Courtney was spot on a couple years ago. And she said this, and a lot of people poo-pooed her, but she had said this during, I believe it was the Golden State championship that we lost. When Marcus Smart got hurt and Derek White was playing, Courtney said he should be the guy that plays, but because of the throwing it in our face of how he's the heart and soul, he's the Tommy point guy, he's the they automatically inserted him.
Okay, but like prior to Tatum and Brown, or when those guys were rookies, that Marcus Smart was the only guy you had.
But what's that saying? Your best player was prior to Tatum or Brown was Isaiah Thomas. So what do you?
Well,
He was
Kyrie Irving. I mean,
no. But I'm saying when we're talking about Marcus Smart, I think as he grew as a player and he got more and more years in, and he started to hear more and more about how he's the hot.
It's an ego thing,
right? And so now what ended up happening? Remember we played audio. I'll never forget the audio. It was like good shooters are gonna shoot, or I'm gonna get my shots up, and that's why I said I blame Wick and Brad because they created the Frankenstein, but didn't want to move on from him early. And I think if they did, especially with Tatum and Brown,
things would be different.
They would have, if they didn't have him for the Golden State run, I think they win that chip.
Because when I take great shots, I'm a great shooter.